There's a difference between the emergency ward in a general hospital and that which you find in a war zone. The one in the general hospital is a process-driven one to save lives. The systems and processes are placed there to save lives. The one in the war zone is meant to reduce loss of life. So maybe he can lose a limb, he lose a hand, or maybe die off, we use his blood for somebody else. That's the mindset of which we run the country. So everything you see in the country is with immediate effect. In fact, in this same report, you will read there where it says on page 44, it says, and I quoted it earlier, that the presidential directive was not complied with at all. And guess what? There was no consequence for it. Listen to this very critical point about this ministerial mindset. It means, therefore, there is a challenge with trust with traditional institutions. You see, when you talk about business integrity, you talk about sovereign integrity. Where you have a society where there is a trust issue with the symbols of the institutions of state, you then find out that things will shape up. That is why you see today that most Nigerians, when they have issues with police, would rather go to SEGA than they talk to any other person, because there's no other state institution they believe in to solve their problem. SEGA is a non-state actor. He runs NSAS. But why do people go to him or not? That's one. Two, you will see in the capital market, people will write a petition to EFCC rather than go to SEC, which was set up by the state to deal with such matters. It is because people are making judgment calls around these things. If you look around you, you'll see it all over the place. That rather than go to the institutions we set up, people find alternative. That tells you that the system is not broken, sir. This is not about a broken system now. It is totally, the clay pot has been broken. The only time when a plan becomes a real document is when it stands on three things. You have policies that comes with it, you have programs, and then you have projects. So all those things we were talking about, infrastructure, falls within those last two. When you cannot cost a plan, therefore, that plan cannot work in itself. Nobody has sat down to you and given you a full cost of the ERGP. So it's more or less like taking somebody's wish list and putting it all together in a document for all intent and purposes. And therefore, there's a disconnect. And so for us, therefore, we try at Proshare to draw the link between the economic goals of the country and the integrity objective, and to draw a fine line where it comes up. And that means for governance, if every time you look at the plans, you don't see those three tripods, it is missing. If you look at the processes and you do not see the rules, systems, regulatory feedback, it's not there. And if you look at the things around people, it is not there. I want to talk to you about two examples. Yeah. Two examples. Because Lagos, for me, is a microcosm of Nigeria, but the more advanced one. How do you process in your mind whereby we have a law that arrests a vehicle? You can be arrested for sundry offenses. Now, it is important that I say something here. Before LASMA, we had a more serious problem in Lagos, and LASMA came and did a very good job to address. You must never, ever forget that where we are coming from. It was so bad. But the beauty about progress is that you can question where we are today. And so I'm talking to you about today. So how do we transit from a problem-solving agency into a problem-creating one? It is easy. When the reason why you set up that agency no longer exists, but because of advancement in society's movement, you refuse to change it. If you take a look at LASMA now, LASMA will physically stop your vehicle. Now hold on a moment. How can any one of you process that a man jumps in the front of a moving vehicle and says stop? How does that work out? What is the health and safety rules there? Why does he put himself at risk and jumps there? You know why it's possible? While we were growing up, and I think I did a one-year stint around the Igbobi College, guys were learning. I went to Maryland, so they used to call us the soft ones. Guys were learning to jump from a mulwe. Now, the thinking then was if you could jump from a moving vehicle, you were deemed to be a smart person. Please explain to me. These are people who went to school. You now jump from a moving vehicle to show that you know how to drop from a mole. That gives you street cred and calls you a smart person. It's also the same way as you set up a school. In front of a road, 3 vehicles this way, 3 vehicles that way. And the students are expected to run across the road every day to the other side to get home. How does that get approved in planning? And this is the mindset that goes into all these things that create the chaos and confusion. Now, for last mile again, Lagos State has done something very significant. One, you have agencies that handle driver's license. 2, you have those that handle vehicle registrations. And you get alerts on your phone when your vehicles are gone. You also have something in Lagos State called the Lagos State Residence Permit. If you took all these 3 things together, you don't probably need all these other things. Because then you can know when a vehicle is not with a permit, you can know when it doesn't have one, and you can actually control it. But to put somebody on the road other than road traffic, but to arrest a vehicle, it doesn't make sense. Because then what you do is that you then create another job for the boys. And luckily, in your administration, the first thing you did was that your first set of people you had to deal with were last mile people. Which means that you also understand that you have bad eggs around you there that will spoil the good job. But maybe what you want to do is to convert them from jumping on the road and adopt technology to deal with that problem. So we can all feel safer in Lagos. After all, that is what a mega city requires. Let me move on to another one for you. The case of the National Union of Road Transport Workers. The unofficial state accord. The point I want to raise here is a significant one. When I mentioned the issue of SEGA, it resonated well with you because it seems as if it's solving a problem. But he's a non-state actor. And the more non-state actors you have in your country, the more chaos you are having. The fact that SEGA is doing a good job is good, but it's not a sustainable model. We must get back to resolving that problem. And that is what created room here. I cannot understand how people can collect taxes for and on behalf of the state government in such a way that is unaccountable. They collect park dues and levies. The registration, the last time I checked in the company's house, says it's an association. It can levy its members, but not to be collecting on the road. So who is in charge, really? The state government or the union? When you turn yourself into such a situation, and we are taken up by the union, we begin to have challenges. What we think, however, sir, is that there is a process whereby the local government can work better and remove this notion of it. Again, it is not consistent with your plan for a mega city. We cannot have a mega city run by unions instead of local government authorities. I want to make just 2 quick ones so that I don't forget it. They are very important points. I'm sure most of you have heard about the incident at our embassy in the United Kingdom. For us, it is not the incident that's important. It's the question he speaks to about our foreign strategy. We see the Nigerian embassies as first and foremost the first point in which we manage the diaspora community. If you understand the balance sheet of a country, there are 2 major things you can look at. You can look at the trade balance, which is what you see in the oil, or you can focus on the current account balances. Most countries that are advanced are focused more on their current account balances. We're talking about your FDIs and your remittances. So in that particular case, your diaspora represents for you where you can get your remittances. But it is not those kind of diaspora where you have people who are doing cleaning job, washing corpses and what have you. It's about getting a higher quality level of people in your diaspora contributing to your economy. And your embassy represents that critical point where you are managing them. And the only affinity they have with them is the physical affinity they have with the country is that passport process. In the United Kingdom, it is possible that you understand that they have a good postal system. When I needed to process passport for my kids as well, we sat in our house, we filled it, we sent it to the British government, they sent it back to you. I have experienced conduct in that embassy that needs to change. But the purpose of this is that modernity, technology, efficiencies in those environments allows us to do better. What it speaks for us is only one point I really want to raise. The decision for the immigration to violate what I call data privacy rules to publish the data page of a Nigerian citizen is not only reprehensible, but it is wrong. In any decent environment, the immigration service will be ruined. But what they've done is to further damage the trust between the people and the system. And again, after all, there are no sanctions for that. If there are no sanctions, it becomes an issue. And these are the issues we talk about integrity. When you ask for us, ask for the other man. If you look at these are the companies that were there between 1980 and 2010. But if you look at the companies here, they've changed, right? Let me show you again. Those were the dominant companies then. These were the dominant companies now. You can see that both in terms of sectors, positions, and whatever they've changed. What hasn't changed is that the laws we run have remained the same. Regulation lags behind business practices. There is no way that these businesses will not run foul of regulation. The challenge is not that these businesses are breaking the laws are bad. They are archaic, they are not working. They are not supporting new business growth. For businesses to play in alpha, beta, pay stack, they can't even do well. Why? We don't even have an IP policy in the country. So let me show you another one. We did a small survey when I was going to take this topic, and I saw Japheth tell me that, oh, he didn't know this was what I was talking about. He was part of the people I polled in when I was doing the survey. And the survey was supposed to answer a few questions, and I'll give you the survey results. The survey result was basically asking people that, please, can you give us names of people that you can recall? It says, kindly provide me with names of persons or institutions you admire from either or both the private and public sector that embodies the following: ethics, leadership, governance, and those who are positioned to build a thriving economy. The survey responses revealed as follows. 52% of respondents said they could not find anyone or entity worthy. 40% provided names of individuals, mostly from the private sector. 3% included names from the public sector. 5% included names of persons, either dead or retired. 21% mentioned at least 3 common names of specific persons and institutions. No one mentioned up to 10 names. And 28% mentioned up to 5 names of person and institution. The takeaway from it is this, and this is my closing statement, that it is easier for Nigerians to remember bad things about you than to remember good things. A simple question: name somebody who is good in ethics, but they couldn't mention 4. They couldn't mention Sir Akitola Williams. They couldn't mention Omoyele. They couldn't even mention any others. They couldn't even mention companies which are known fully well, that are doing well. They couldn't even mention Yemi Kale. They couldn't even mention MBS. They couldn't even mention GT Bank. They couldn't even mention, you know why? Because our minds have been programmed to negativity. We believe the worst of us, we accept the worst of us, and we are ready to believe anything said bad about anybody. If I told you today that Bolaji is a cook, the chances are you believe him. And he will spend the rest of his life trying to cover for himself. And nobody remembers any good thing we do. So what I would say, gentlemen, is that maybe we should focus on building up the good names and the good people. And for me, I've given you some examples here. You may try that. And while you are doing so, thank you very much for your tolerance. Thank you.